last time you saw this was, pre-Civil War, and it wasn't viewed favorably in the light of history afterwards either. But I will tell you, President Trump has made it very clear to us we're going to remain determined to address these immigration laws, and that means deporting those who are here illegally, stopping them at the border when we can. We've been very effective in that since the crisis last year. We've gotten better and better at this, particularly as we build more wall. And we have a president who's determined not only not to allow a state like California to prevail on what they're attempting to do, but to really make headway against that problem. And we are doing that under his leadership.
Well, let's speak a word or two about customs and border protection and what is going on down along the border. It's not widely reported, but the numbers have flipped essentially compared to last year. May 2020, the apprehensions are way dramatically down. And who you are apprehending at the border is also shifting as well. It was a year ago at this time, Mr. Secretary, that, of course, we were talking about the folks coming up here in, quote, family units from Guatemala and other parts of Central America. But now it seems to be back to where it was, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, when you're now apprehending more Mexican nationals, but you're also doing so under a new dynamic with the COVID-19, and that is you're apprehending these people and in many cases not necessarily processing them, but you're turning them around and sending them back home.
Yes, so we're operating since mid-March under a public health order from the CDC that governs the border. And so 80%, actually more than 80%, of the individuals that we are apprehending coming over the southern border now are literally being returned into Mexico on average in under 2 hours, which is truly an incredible feat by Customs Border Protection, both OFO and the Border Patrol together. And to your point, the demographic we're seeing has gotten back to what we would call sort of a historical norm, which is single adult male Mexican border crossers. They are far and away the overwhelming portion now of those crossing the border, unlike a year ago, as you noted, from what we call the Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, and coming across as families and all sorts of combinations. That has really been restricted in part because Mexico has started to police its southern border to a degree we haven't seen before, and they've been cooperating as have those three countries' governments, in eliminating things like the caravans. You haven't heard of a single caravan in calendar year 2020. Not one has left its home country and gotten more than a couple of 100 miles into Mexico before being effectively eliminated.
And this is something good that we want our enemies to watch and see what we are doing along the border. The border is more secure and the wall is being built and people are being turned away. But does it concern you at all, Mr. Secretary, that the enemies are watching this angst from within, the attack on police? It's been an incredible 2020 if you think about it, right? It began with an attack on the chief executive, an unconstitutional attack. And then we've swerved into this attack on freedom and liberty, in my opinion, especially by the blue states as a so-called government response to the COVID. And now we see this internal attack on police. To me, it's what is next. But China has got to be watching this and scratching their head and saying, hey, they're doing the damage for us.
Well, not only that, Iran, China, and others. You hear about Russia, of course, all the time. But Iran and China, you don't hear so much about. Online, they're trying to stoke this rage on all sides. They don't so much take sides as want to destabilize the United States along the lines of what you were talking about earlier. They're very much in the camp of the destabilizers. So Iran and China are allies of that. Russia is an ally of that. And that's what they try to do online in the United States. That is not going unnoticed by our intelligence services, including in the Department of Homeland Security. But really, that's more homegrown. Yep. But let's not kid ourselves. Our enemies around the world are not unhappy at what they're seeing right now.
And they are, I'm sure, saying a very debt of gratitude and thank you to the radical left for doing the damage that they simply cannot do. Mr. Secretary, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.